Hey, welcome everybody to Talking Niagara. It is Tuesday, the November the 9th, and welcome. Hey, the new tax brackets are out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Although what always bugs me about this, whenever this is the statement I'm reading, right? Middle class tax cut, maximum saving of $420 per person, 840 per couple. Um, Yeah, never existed in my life. Don't know, never applied to me, right? Isn't that what you always find?
Uh, Repeat that, please. I was just writing something down for one of our
No,
other
I was.
hosts.
They always cover these articles with this kind of typical statement: middle class tax cut, maximum saving of $420 per person, 840 per couple. Not in a million years does that ever apply. I always seem to end
Yeah,
up
I don't know
paying
who
more.
does apply to.
Yeah, exactly. Always seems to end up paying more tax. But anyway, what they're basically saying is that the basic personal amount, which is for 2026, is 16,452, and between that and 58,000, you'll pay 14%. Between 58,000 and 117,000, you'll pay 20.5%, and then the brackets go up from there. The thing about these is that if you paid 60,000, you only pay the 20% on the bit on the 2,000 that's above the bracket, right? That's the thing to remember. So that's why tax is so damn complicated.
Yes, I don't know. Yeah, I guess. Well, I guess it's trying to, give everybody as much of a break as at the same time, gouging people as much as possible. The I, this is all fair and good, but we constantly hear about how to hide your income. You can borrow against you. Depending if the more money you got, the less taxes you pay, and that's not because you're outside of a tax bracket. It's because your money is all locked up in investments, and there's unrealized gains. I don't know how much of that works in Canada as it does in the States, but I'm pretty sure it's very similar.
And it only
So that you
applies.
have you have your money locked up in investments, and so that's unrealized gain. And what you do is then you borrow against your investments, and that's how you make your money to go day by day. And as your wealth keeps increasing, you're not being paid taxes on it, and it never gets realized. Basically, it's a real shadow game, and and that's where a lot of the high wealth players, that's how they get away with paying like 6% tax or 4% tax or something
Well,
like that.
basically, Ricky says the rich and poor don't pay tax.
Yeah.
True.
The poor because they can't, and the rich because they're dodging it.
Yeah. Well, the poor because they don't make enough money to pay tax.
That's right. They don't have enough.
Yeah. Yeah. And with the basic personal amount being 16,452, that basically means you've got to earn that before you pay a penny in tax, right?
Yeah. And then after that, you pay tax over and above that. So your tax bracket is very important. Anyone, like say OAS, like old age security. Once you start, I think it says something like $95,000 there. Then you start have to pay back things like OAS. You have to start paying back POGI too if you make a certain amount of money. I was in that bracket years ago. I used to advise the guys that no matter how much POGI you pay back, it's always worth collecting POGI, because the guys were not collecting POGI when they were laid off, and because of that, well, we just got to pay it back anyways, because they're going to get jobs to get me that will push me over the threshold. And I always told them, look, it always pays to collect POGI, because you're always going to make something off of it. It might not be much, but it will be something. So always apply for POGI, always collect POGI, pay it back at tax time, but you'll never pay it all back. So there's little tricks you have to look. I mean, even a poor person who has to collect POGI basically, or a person that's modest income, there are ways in which to dodge the tax man, or at least take an advantage.
Yeah. And, you know, and that's all you can really do. And this is what everybody does, despite their position on the tax totem pole, is everybody's just got to protect their own, haven't they? You know, try to reduce their tax, you know, what they pay in taxes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So anyways, it's a good little article in the review. You can get some kind of understanding of what's coming up for you yourself personally. For anybody that's an ordinary everyday Canadian making ordinary everyday wages, this of course is not. You'll need an accountant if you make a lot of money, or try to defer your taxes in any other way. It also talks about tax-free bank accounts. Of course, you can start with that. There's limitations on that too, but it's always a good idea to start investing in those. Then you don't have to pay tax on it until you withdraw it.
Yeah. I wish I had money to be able to put in one of those.
Yeah, well, sometimes, you know, I know some people actually that have worked hard all their lives and made modest incomes, but because of their investments and things, or money managers or whatever, have made them a fair amount of money. And now they come to the retirement time of life, and they have to start getting into their RSPs and stuff like that. Suddenly they have a heck of a lot more money than they used to have. You know, I was just talking to a fella a couple of weeks ago about that, and he lives a very modest lifestyle, and then suddenly he's going to have this much bigger income. Doesn't know quite what to do with it, because all his habits are very modest and just ordinary everyday stuff. And now he's going to have more money than he expected to have. So that sometimes there's a good story out there, you know.
Yeah. All right. And another next one's a good story. 46 more vessels than expected ran through the Seaway.
Yeah, we've talked about the Seaway a couple of weeks ago, and how
in fact, it's been a constant topic this year. Record-breaking year, basically, isn't it?
In a way, commodities and grains, lots of grains, a lot more grain than anticipated. Commodities like gypsum and coal and other things. There are ups and downs in all of them, but manufacturing goods are way down. They're like 17.5% down.
Problem with that,
and that is probably because of the tariffs. Right?
And I was going to say, the problem with that, of course, is where's the high value goods? It's all in the manufactured goods, isn't it?
Well, yeah, you could say that, but shipping is made for bulk.
Yeah,
and that's what ships do. They transport bulk, massive amounts of material. And when you look at it overall, the Seaway is very healthy. There's commerce going through it very well. But if you then kind of drill down and to see what is moving, the manufactured goods, the rolled steel and all of that kind, that is being reduced.
Yeah,
which is not a really good indicator for your industries. But on the other hand, when you get potash and soybeans and wheat and stuff, and that's all up, well, you know, somebody's making money. Probably our farmers out west are making some good loot going forward. There's also more gypsum and things of that kind, high bulk items moving through there. But when you get to industrial machinery and things like that, that's way down. That's like 17.5% down, which is quite a drastic drop.
Yeah,
that we could probably ascribe completely to the tariffs.
And that is a problem area. Although it's, you know, basically overall volume is up, but the high value products are not, right? And that's a problem area, the way I see it.
Yeah, so grain is up 10.5%.
Yeah,
right, and
that's good. That's
such
good.
as wheat, corn, soybeans, barley, canola, and oats. Dry bulk cargo shipments are up 5.5%. That consists of stone, gravel, sand, salt, cement, potash, and gypsum. I don't know what potash is doing in there. Potash is actually a is something that's required for fertilizer, and to mix it with these other building components, it just seems to be an odd thing to mix it in with. But
Well, I'm not
potash,
sure
of course, can be shipped separately, and that,
yeah,
of course, is essential for
I'm sure they
fertilizer.
have specialist vehicles for potash because if used wrongly, it's flammable, isn't it?
I don't know. There's some cement in my potash here. Um, I got too much salt in my potash. I don't think so. No. Yeah, it would be independently
Yeah, has to be.
shipped.
Yeah.
And coal general cargo, which indicates iron and steel slabs, machinery, and wind energy turbines, were down 17.5% and 28.5%, respectively. Iron ore shipments were also down over the same last year at coming up to 4% almost, which is not as bad as I thought. But when you think of Algoma laying off all the people, yeah. So a lot of this has to be settled. We see that.
Well, we still got another month. We still got another month to go for the final statistics, but it is overall a record-breaking year.
Yes, but it is important to look at those items that made the record break, and some of those things that are reduced are indications of problems.
They're definitely indications of problems in our economy. Yeah.
So we can see obviously the general goods like salt, cement, and potash, and the wheat products are big. We can see that that's all very good. That tells us the West is doing well. But when you talk about manufactured goods and iron ore down and coal down and that kind of thing, I mean, that tells you what? That tells you that there's less production. And that's not just on the Canada side, basically. That's on, if that is down, it's down everywhere. It's down on the state side too.
Okay, this is a story going on in our comments. Basically saying, Betty is saying farmers are pissed off. And the reason why is that they can't put their own windscreen wipers on. Bullshit.
What?
They're allowed to, their garage has to do the repairs, so they're not allowed to put their own windscreen wipers on. That doesn't make sense at all.
That sounds like an insurance thing to me.
Yeah.
I'm just guessing. I'm just a shot in the dark here. When you have situations like that, when there is restrictions on whether or not you can put on your own windshield wipers or change your own tires or something, that's usually something that comes down from the insurance companies. When you have if you have wheels coming off because the farmer's done his own repairs and it's cost the insurance company a lot of money because he was got in an accident or something like that kind, then the other insurance companies all pick up on it, and suddenly they make a rule: farmers can't change their own wheel tires, or they can't. Farmers can't change their own windshield wipers because we had one incident where a farmer changed his own and it didn't work and it caused him to get in an accident. So I don't know exactly where that's coming from. I would be mad myself if I was a farmer, because what you do is you denounce every farmer for one farmer who doesn't put his windshield wipers on correctly.
It is true that if you don't put the windshield wiper, if you don't stick it in correctly, the windshield wiper won't snap into place and won't hold tight on the thing. However, that said, it's not, it's becoming increasingly easy to put windshield wipers on.
Oh, I had to jerry rig some of my windshield wipers. They weren't locking in. Something was happening to them. So I had to come up with a paper clip kind of a thing to put in there to hold the little locking mechanism
Well,
in
you
place.
probably used the wrong locking mechanism for your type of car.
No, the locking mechanism failed. This was long after I had put the windshield wipers on,
Oh,
and then the locking mechanism failed. Probably in the winter with ice and stuff, it probably got broken.
yeah,
So what I did, I just put a wire in there to hold it in place, keep the locking mechanism up or engaged, and that worked.
yeah,
That worked. The other one was fine. It was just the one.
yeah. I don't know. I think that sounds to me exactly as you said, somewhat more like an insurance issue than anything. An insurance thing than anything else. And
Yeah,
yeah,
I can't see the government regulating that. Can you?
no, neither could I. And it's
I
the
mean, they're
same
pretty
sort of
dumb with
thing
the
as if you were
regulations.
to say, yeah, it's as if you were to say an 18-wheeler truck driver can't replace his own windscreen wiper. Well, yeah, but 9 times out of 10, he probably doesn't anyway, right?
Well, yeah, it depends on if he's an independent or not, and basically if he gets in an accident because his windshield wipers doesn't work, then he has to answer to the insurance company, and thereafter the insurance company will insist that a qualified mechanic replace the windshield wiper. It depends. It sounds much more like an insurance thing to me.
Yeah.
I can't really see a farmer not fixing his own gear and
No.
when he wants to and how he wants to, and telling the government to go get stuffed. But
Yeah,
if the insurance
absolutely.
company's hanging over his head with an insurance bill that insists that he doesn't, I don't even know how they will be able to even monitor such a thing.
Yeah.
How does anyone know when you're going to need your windshield wipers replaced, and who knows who would do it?
Yeah.
Your combine or your truck or whatever comes with windshield wipers. Somebody come around and check to see if who put it in and when. I don't know.
Well,
It sounds
saying,
like it sounds more like insurance than government regulation, but I'd have to know more about it.
yeah, when you were saying about you had put a paper clip in because part of the windshield wiper stuff failed after you'd had it on for a while. Well, typically I found that that's the point at which I go buy a new windshield wiper.
Yep.
Just go buy, and you can buy them in ones these days anyway. So I don't have to worry about buying a pair. I just buy, if it's the right hand one, I'll just replace that.
Oh yeah.
And given the cost of them, typically what, $25 to $35, $25 to $40, generally not an issue, right?
Yeah. When I was making big money, I bought the very best you could buy for my cars. Like I had winter ones. I had because I did a lot of driving.
Yeah,
I had a huge amount of driving, and that made a difference. I can tell you. You've got good
until
windshield wipers.
Until yesterday, I didn't really appreciate about winter ones. But yesterday, the amount of ice that was built up on my windscreen was unbelievable.
Yep. So you're going to have anyway. Aside from that, what else we got?
Yeah. Hang on, 3 more comments before we do move on. You can paint as long as you put it back on put it back in the color it was when you moved out. Okay. There are.
What was that about?
I'm presuming that's about rental tenancies. Painting your room. They've gone mad. The government trying to enslave us with their rules and laws, says Betty and Rick. I clean 10 floors to make rent later. They pay $200 a month slavery. Yeah. Yeah, I get it, Rick. Absolutely. All right. Moving on. Federal offices are now demanding a return to work.
Return in-person work. They've already been working. They're pushing for in-person
Sorry,
work.
return to office. I said return to work. I should have said return to office. Yeah. Let me correct that. Because in fact that's actually a crucial difference. Yeah, they are working. They're basically saying you got to be working in the office where we designate your workspace to be, not at home. And basically, the issue here, of course, is that if you were employed as a worker, whether it's federal or anywhere else, and you were employed to work at home, and you never ever were needed in the office, then you probably are okay. If you're originally employed to work at home, it's about your original contract. If you're employed to work at an office at a specific location, then that is your workplace. And return to office orders are actually it's part of applying your rules of work.
Yes. So what we have is a situation where a lot of people have been working from home for a very long time. Now employers, including the government, want their employees to come back to the office. And they're getting a lot of resistance in that because a lot of employees have decided, well, they can work just as well out of home as they can during an office. So what they're going to do, they move to different places. They can move work out of their office. I know Ford Motor Company's got a bunch of people that work from home in the Ottawa area.
Yeah. Well, you can do that if you're designing.
The ones that work in Oakville have been told they all have to come back to work. Well, they over a year now. Yeah. So, but for a few years there, they were all working from home.
Well, clearly you could do something like design a car from home. You could design a car anywhere in the world, right? And in fact, as a designer, you probably work with teams of other designers anyway in order to put a car together. And it probably doesn't matter whether you're in California, Toronto, Timbuktu, or the Netherlands, right? But for the vast majority of people, if you're in accounting, but if you're in accounting or for the majority of people, you've got to be able to deal with those inter-office issues, haven't you?
I'm not sure how it works. I've worked in an office, but very minorly. I've worked in an office for maybe a combination of 4 months of my working career.
Yeah,
a few months here in Canada and a couple of months in Libya.
I've worked in an office all my life, and basically, there are a lot of work in an office. It's like, well, I've done my part. Now I need to pass it on to Mary or Joseph or Abdul or whoever's doing the next piece in the job, right?
Yeah. Now, why this is happening? Who knows? We found that just about every company is insisting that its workers come back and work in an office at least part of the time. I know one guy that only has to show up once a week. I've heard of other people having to show up 3 times a week, do the rest from home. I know one lady that made her case when asked to come back into the office. She says, I can do a lot better work right here from my home. She proved her case, so she was left to be to continue to work from her home.
One of the issues is if you've got to do something where you've got to create things. I'm not talking necessarily about advertising or what we would traditionally talk about, creative kind of posts. But if your role is to write reports or to to deal with if you're writing things, creating something, then often it is easier to work at home. I can get more done in 2 hours at home than I can in 2 hours in the office. And there's a simple reason for that. 2 hours at home, I'm just crashing through the document that I'm writing. Biff bang wallop, I'm just adding what I need to do. I can look up my references. I can deal with whatever. And there's one crucial difference. This damn device doesn't ring. The phone isn't ringing, isn't constantly on the go. Peter, that report you were going to give me? Yes, I'm working on it. When will it be available? Next Tuesday. And how that whole interaction slows you down.
Well, I suppose each different job has a different problem. If you're working from home, let's say you're working from home, you could concentrate completely on whatever the job you're doing, and you do have distractions when you go back into the office, but I'm not so sure. Anyway, in this particular case, it's the government. The government wants their people back in the office. This is shaking up the union. They don't know quite what to do. There is nothing definitive here. This is all just fluff and dust in the air. Obviously, the government is wanting the people to come back to the office or to their offices, but they haven't said anything definitively yet. When they go after the minister, he doesn't say anything too clearly about anything. There's been a lot of, sort of leaks or comments and things of that kind. I would say overall, they want their people back in the office for the most part. They can keep a closer eye on them, I suppose. They can monitor what they're doing more easily. I don't know. Some of the work that could be just put off to, to AI, and you could be in Florida having a holiday, and AI is doing your job if you know how to do it well enough. In any case, they want them back in, and it seems to me, I thought that work from home would have been pretty much locked in. I didn't expect as many people demanding their employee, or as many companies or governments demanding their employees to come into a place to work, when it seems a lot of it can be done without person-to-person, direct person-to-person contact.
Do you know what I hear from both workers and employers is allegations that, in fact, those that work from home are actually working more than one job?
Oh, that's a possibility. You could be doing that. Yeah, you could figure out what is the bare minimum you have to put out. To determine, this is the bare minimum I have to do to keep this job floating, and I could do this one and that one too. But there is something to the person-to-person contact. That's what a lot of the bosses want, or people are running crews or running teams. The person-to-person contact becomes more important. They get to know the person a little bit better. They get a feeling for what they can and can't do. You just don't know what kind of information they're being fed when they're, let's say, their accountant's supposed to do a certain X amount of work, and their expectations, you think their expectations, it'll take them 8 hours to do X amount of work, when it actually just takes them 1 hour, and you can't really figure that out until they come into the office for some reason. I don't know.
This is part and parcel. This is part and parcel of the thing that I'm saying. At home, that job takes them 1 hour. At work, that job takes them 8 hours because the damn phone won't stop ringing. You know what I mean?
That's not the case with every job, though. It may be like the kind of job you have, but for other people, it's not really the case. You have somebody in the accountant's office.
It's been the way that my life is always
making phone calls.
Pardon me? Yeah,
you have somebody like an accountant or something. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, that's always been my life, but I recognize that there's people who work in accounts offices that probably never get a phone call.
Yeah, they're the ones that are making the phone calls.
Probably.
Hey, I noticed on your expense account. I noticed on your expense account you have medical massage by Roxy LaRue and Company, exotic massages. You want to explain that one?
Never happened. Yeah. Okay. So I get it. I get it. I'm generally siding with the fact that we do need to get back to the office. We've got empty offices, which are causing major problems around the country. We need to fill those offices again.
But do we need to fill them just because we have to fill them, or can we convert that office space into residential space?
Highly likely not. Trouble with converting offices to residential spaces, they have different demands, right? Offices, you never open the window.
That was a big deal. Remember during COVID and all these people were working from home, and and of course the general consensus is at the time these people didn't need to come into the office anyway when they could do most of their work at home. And probably, and of course, the idea was they could probably even do it better at home for the reasons why you said. They're not interrupted all the time.
Yeah.
And so there was this thing, well, what do we do with all this empty office space? And the idea was, of course, to convert it to residential.
Yeah. Well, you see, I don't know
how far along that got.
Yeah. I would have to say I'm at my most productive, usually between like 9 and 11, and probably between 5 and 7. If I'm going to pick,
and
those other
times. Are you in
times,
the office at 5 to 7? Are you in the office at 5 to 7?
Sometimes. That's often why I stay in the office, because I'm more productive at that point.
Yeah.
I can kind of just put the other things aside. The phone isn't going, and now I can crash through and finish that document that I need to finish.
Okay.
Write the letters I need to write. And you see, what I didn't do yesterday was post the letter that needs posting. I mean, physically go to the post office and do it. Mind you, I didn't fancy the walk down smelly Queen Street, to be quite honest.
Smelly Queen Street.
Well, the fire at the Standard Building, right?
Oh yeah, is it still smoldering away?
I don't know. It wasn't smelly at my office, which is only 200 meters away from that location. But I didn't go out the front. I should have. Today I have to take the walk to Queen Street to go post this.
Yeah, you're just gonna have to put on your mask and go.
Yep, exactly. Okay, so
what else we got?
Moving on, Paramount Skydance is bidding for Warner Brothers Discovery to create a new media powerhouse. Although Warner Brothers are saying don't accept the offer, right? Because
Netflix has already made an offer.
Yeah, Netflix is making an offer as well. Yeah, and I have problems.
Netflix has already made an offer, and it was pretty much accepted until Paramount Skydance launched a hostile takeover, and they're offering the shareholders $30 more or something. I don't know exactly how much they're offering him, but they're offering them, the shareholders, $30 cash. They're going to take over more of the Warner Brothers empire. The Netflix bid was $80-something billion. Now, the problem with the Paramount one is that it is a fellow by the name of Ellison, and he's the guy that runs Oracle. He's one of the most wealthiest persons in the world.
Yeah.
Well,
I have big problems with any of these bids, right? Because I don't think Netflix should be allowed to bid for Warner Brothers. I don't think Paramount should be allowed to bid for Warner Brothers. I think we're getting too many mega corporations that they're controlling what we do in any industry.
Well, the difference here what I object to basically with the Paramount one is that Ellison is pretty much he's a Zionist. He is a staunch Trump supporter. If you look at who is buying this, and when he does get it, he can then marry CNN and CBS News and make them what he wants to, so he can conduct and his people can determine what you get for news and what you don't, because they say they're going to be like a mainstream news type, sort of down the middle, but you're not going to be able to get all the news because Larry Ellison and his folks are going to be able the ones that determine which news they want you to get and what interpretation of the news you get. That's too much power for somebody who is politically involved. So he's a political actor who has a lot of money, who's best buddies with Netanyahu, and doesn't overtly call himself a Zionist, but works that way. You look into the paperwork here too, and where is the money coming from? The money's coming from the Saudi Arabian wealth funds, right? It's called the Saudi Public Investment Fund, Qatar Investment Fund. Also, money's coming from Abu Dhabi and other places.
Another reason why
buried in the paperwork.
Yeah,
way back in the final paperwork, right back in the smallest part of the paperwork is Jared Kushner.
Yeah. Another reason why I say mega mergers of this nature should be against trust laws. It's antitrust laws for a reason. And they're flouting these antitrust laws.
So what you have is the Saudis who are feeding Trump and his family lots of money and investments. The Qataris are feeding them the same. Abu Dhabi too. So they're feeding Jared Kushner. It's Jared Kushner's funds that are backing this too. The wealth funds of Saudi Arabia and all that. So they're getting in there. They're going to get their influence. There is some speculation that Saudi Arabia wants to use the networks that would be required by Paramount to advertise itself, to make itself look much better in the public eye, even to promote tourism.
Yeah,
and Jared Kushner's in here. Another Trump family member is in the mix of all this.
Yeah, and as you say, a lot of it is about changing. It is probably the target is changing CBS and CNN News.
Well, what it suspects is that those two news groups would be married, and they would kind of have a consistent, supposedly centrist view of the news. But of course, this would all be censored by Ellison and his people to sort of make the news what they want the news to be, what they want you to know. So you turn on the news, and this is a good indication why you can't trust the news anyway. You got to find out who owns the news, who owns the networks. You know, who owns it is what will tell you what how they interpret the article. You don't have to go any further than the National Post, and you read the National Post when it has anything to do with the Middle East and how super soft they are in Israel. And then you read other publications and you can see how extraordinarily soft they are on Israel. And so you can see somebody's influence in those articles right off the bat. So you got to think to yourself, well, who's right here? Are they being super soft on Israel for some reason as political? So you really have to be, and when you get somebody like Ellison, with that kind of money and that kind of influence, political chops. I mean, he feeds Trump lots of money for his campaigns. And he's got Jared Kushner in his helping him out with this merger, and this big Saudi and Qatari money that's trying to break into the U.S. Can you really trust something like that? But we really can't expect sort of fair look at this from the legal aspect, because we find a lot of the legal experts are or the judges in that are in the pocket of either the Republicans or the Democrats and follow their ideology.
Yeah. And
And make no
nobody,
mistake, if it was a Democrat billionaire making a bid for this media, they would convert it to something that they liked.
oh yeah, I'm not disputing any of that, Dave. I'm not disputing any of that. It's just the whole thing here is typically the other thing you get with mergers is like is job cuts,
Yeah.
right? Absolutely. Every time when you get mergers of this nature, you'll get job cuts because there's always two or three people do it. You know, in any job, your job's probably covered by two or three other people in another company anyway. So you won't necessarily keep your job because there's somebody else doing your job. Right?
Yeah. Mm.
And
Yep.
that's going to have an impact across the world for those companies. And then there is a Canadian.
It's just kind of creepy, though. You've got a lot of Saudi and Qatari money coming in, and we do know the associations that the Qataris and the Saudis have with Trump and his family, and the kind of investments they have already been making with Eric Trump and Jared Kushner in the Bitcoin and the Trump medallion and all that other stuff. Those things, they don't care if they fail or not fail. It's just a matter of getting the investment in there and getting influence in the door.
Yeah.
You've worked in other places in the world, and that's how they do it. That's how they get an influence. That's completely understanding to them. Get to the top guy, feed him money, buy his influence. That's how you do it. That's how you do it in my country. If I'm a Qatari and somebody gets to the prince, feeds me money, tells me how wonderful I am, then I might get my way. The same as Saudi Arabia. Go to Mohammed bin Salman, right? And then just say, hey, you're wonderful. You're great. Here, I want to drill for oil over there. Okay. Here, how wonderful they are. Here's a gold bar with your name on it. That's what they're doing to Trump right now. And that's the kind of politics third world, developing world people understand. Get to the top guy, feed him money, corrupt him. That's perfect.
The other thing to note about this, Dave, is that whichever way this deal plays out, there's an impact upon Bell Media and Canadian streaming services as well, because they may change.
Yeah, they may change. The big complaint about Netflix with this is that they're more committed to streaming movies than they are to movies in the cinema.
In theaters,
and one of the things that Ellison is using to make his case is with union members of movies and production people, as we are committed to the big movie theater movies where you go to the movies. And we think that's the future, whereas Netflix is less committed to that side of it and more into the streaming entertainment.
Yeah, and you only need to look at, hey, right now, of course, as we're getting into Christmas, you got the Christmas movies coming along, and those have never been on the big screen at all, ever, have they?
Well, it's a niche market, so it's different altogether. It's a family niche market kind of thing. But when you talk about the big movies, the big like Oppenheimer or Dune or something of that kind, or Star Wars, you want to see that in a big movie theater, or at least that's what Paramount is saying. But that, I think, is a minor issue here. That's what they're using to attract some support among the people who work in the industry, that the big movies will not go away if we get this merger. And remember, Paramount and Skydance did make the merger with the help of the Trump regime earlier on, because Paramount did make the move and get bond with Skydance, and that was they had to play footsie with the administration to do that. So they couldn't be that critical of them. And having Ellison as all part of that, and he's huge Trump supporter and MAGA guy himself. So you're not going to get, if a guy like that gets in control, you're going to have to really pick apart any kind of news that comes out of CNN or CBS, because they will now be owned by someone who really wants to censor the news and give you bits and pieces of what they think you should have, unfortunately. And
according to
was a
Ricky,
Democrat, it would be the same way.
According to Ricky, we now need to look at North Korea's news outlets.
Yeah. Hey, I like the North Korean anchor woman. Don't you love her? She's always yelling like she's a matronly looking woman, and she just she's just ripping away and smiling all the time.
And the trouble with that is that I just don't know. I just never know what the response is. Because clearly, if I did this, but if I took the alternative, it's
right. Yeah, well, it's preaching. It's preaching of one. It's preaching like how you don't know how. Okay, so you don't have any rice today. Quit complaining, because the rice you did get last year was really high quality. So what are you complaining about? So they're just I don't know. It's just that's another story into itself, though. Really, North Korea is now taking lessons from Vietnam, not so much China, but from Vietnam, to become more of an open commercial country, open to all things to tourism.
Let's point this one out, Dave.
St. David, Peter. That's right. I've got this halo, and I fasten it on my head, right on the horns, right? It just pushed down on the horns, and it stays there.
Yeah. Okay. So newcomers to this area have included vintage stores, hair salons, restaurants, butchers, tire stores, and video game stores in downtown St. Catharines. The question here is that how long will they stay? That's my view. I've been working in St. Catharines now for 5 years, and I've seen change after change after change after change after change. Right? Nothing is permanent there anymore.
Yes, and do you see overall positive or negative change?
Actually, I would have to say, from speaking with most of the business owners, why you're closing next week, there's not enough money here. There's no money here. Nobody comes to downtown St. Catharines anymore.
And how about you and your firm? Do you think you'll be moving out for the same reason?
No, because we're in downtown St. Catharines for the courts.
Okay.
A lot of law firms are there because of the courts.
Okay, so that kind of makes sense. Now they're trying to, in this particular article, they're trying to say how wonderful.
Besides which, Dave, just to put that one, nailing that one, rents. If you went to the north end or the west end or of St. Catharines, in some of these mega malls that are out there, you'll probably find the rent is actually more expensive in some of those more, less central places than it is in downtown St. Catharines. Ironically, but go on.
Well, I was saying that. This article then is really belying what really is happening. Then they're saying there's been this influx of new entrepreneurship or new businesses, and people are saying, "Oh my God, really? Is this downtown St. Catharines?" But you're telling us that really it doesn't. The people are actually moving out.
My experience over the last 4 years is that you see basically there's a convenience store that opened up next to a Timmy's that closed down, and the convenience store closed down 6 months later because it wasn't open long enough hours, in my view. right?
Well, that's your view. You didn't really get it from the horse's mouth, though, did you?
No, but again, the way that the convenience store was poorly stocked right from the outset. I want to go in there. Oh, have you got coffee? Oh, not today.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Okay,
And
so they.
what are you likely to want in something like downtown? Something like coffee, things that are going in the office, right?
Yeah. Well, there's one convenience store I don't use. It's close to me. I don't use it because it won't take my card anymore, and their
Oh,
machines are old, and they won't take my card. But every other store does take my card. So, but that one doesn't, and so I just don't go there anymore because they got an old machine that works for most of the cars, but doesn't work for mine. So I don't go there. I go to places where it take my card, and
okay.
and that's.
Okay, so talking about surprising and putting aside my cynicism about this thing, they're talking about revitalized dining and shopping. Okay, there has been a number of new openings, new restaurants and businesses are opening, making downtown a destination for entertainment and food. Have you been to downtown St. Catharines recently?
No, I was there a few months ago. You know, um,
What was your feeling about the food situation and and that?
I uh, I didn't think it was. I think it was pretty typical, ordinary pub food. The places I've gone, I go there at least once or twice a year to have something to eat before I go see something, that a performance of some kind, in one of the performing places there. So like the Meridian Center or the other one, the and and basically it's just there's nothing special about the food. It
Yeah,
is typical pub fare. I mean,
yeah.
it'll feed you. You can enjoy it, but it's nothing to send, nothing to phone home about. Wow, wow! Did I found this restaurant? It's got really good food. No, you got to find a restaurant that pretty much does pretty
Well,
ordinary food.
and how many of them are chain restaurants?
The ones I was in were not chain
Okay.
restaurants.
Actually, that's something that I would say I would rate a good well in St. Catharines. There are a number of food places that are not chain food places. Hey, I'm not got any objection to places like Subway and that sort of thing being there. But I think that what gives a place like St. Catharines its independence is actually how unique it is, right? Okay, so one of I just there's a in this article they talk about a Reddit thread. City grows a severe lack of affordable housing, high rents are major issues, making it tough for newcomers and impacting quality of life. Notes Reddit users, and according to a Reddit thread, there's one on here that says, "Does anybody else find this city super depressing now?" And the guy says, "I've lived in Niagara region my entire life, with a brief spat in Hamilton and Toronto, but I used to think St. Catharines is a small, super safe city with unusual amounts of weirdos and that any." With the usual amount of weirdos that any city has, it was pretty clean and lots of green space. Now, when I ride my bike around town, I feel overwhelmingly depressed. And that's
Well,
that's
I
one of the
think
articles.
what's happened.
That's one of the links that's in that article.
Okay, well, one of the biggest problems with downtown St. Catharines is the homeless people.
Yeah.
Of
Oh, yeah.
course.
Yeah.
There are a lot of them. There are a lot of them there just kind of hanging out. And sometimes they're bothersome, sometimes they're not.
Mhm.
Just about every time I go there, one or somebody tries to put the touch on me for coin. Um, and I always give them the typical answer. Well, man, I'm hungry, man. Can I have some? I'm really hungry. I said, okay, I'll buy you something to eat. Of course, no, give me the money. No, go away.
Yeah.
So I've
Yeah.
called a bluff right away. Right? So but homeless is one of the biggest problems. Homeless people, and those homeless people, among them are drug addicted people.
Yeah.
We saw here in our own town. The last time I was having one of the last times I was having a beer with Gary at the Grand Central. There, we're sitting outside. There was a guy overwhelmed by the zombie drugs there. I saw it at Staples one time. There was a guy overwhelmed by the zombie drugs, and so that is off-putting. When you go downtown, you don't see that in the mall, do you? You don't see that in Penn Center, do you?
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you do, they're pushed off the premises pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And
and Rick raises a good question here: is who can afford to go out nowadays? It's too expensive.
precisely, Rick. Precisely. Like I went out. I went to the Chandelier in Ridgeway, Crystal Beach. Was it Friday night? I think it was.
Yeah.
To see the Thomas Nelson band. Yeah, it was a really, really good jazz, funk, rock band. The guitarist had a excellent guest saxophonist. They got a good rhythm section, drum and bass, and a keyboardist. Really, really good stuff. And so my total bill, my buddy drove, so I bought him. I owed him a dinner anyway. So the whole thing, tax included, was $120. Now, if I'd been only paying myself, it's $60. But still, you got to get there. You got to pay the money, and basically, and nowadays, that unfortunately is a once a month kind of thing now. Because of the strain of finances. Yeah, who's going to be able to take their family out to the movie theater now? Really? Yeah. Are they going to be able to take their money out? And we could do what Christopher Freeland says. Oh, we can cancel that Disney subscription. Yeah.
No, I think what you need to do in terms of going back to the previous article is you've got to cancel that Paramount, Crave, Netflix, and every other subscription that's out there. Go back to the.
Well, I don't have any of them anymore. I don't have. I did have Netflix for the longest time, but I don't have it anymore. The only thing I really got is YouTube.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna say. Okay. So here's an advert. So Rick's coming up with an advert for Thorold. There's no homeless there. Okay. And Betty gonna say that they are too small, Thorold, so they come to St. Catharines. Yeah. Absolutely.
They had a problem. They had a problem with homeless people. Well, wasn't long ago. Maybe it was a year ago. I think we read an article about that. So maybe they have migrated out of Thorold, but Thorold did have a problem with homeless for a while there.
Well, there's two big encampments, as I understand it, in St. Catharines right now.
Yeah.
Right. So so this is a mixed. Honestly, was very much a mixed feeling one, because I think the people who know St. Catharines, who live in St. Catharines, are basically saying it's not as good as made out to be.
St. Catharines got a bit of an edge, though. It's a university town, so the downtown could come alive if they were able to coax enough of the students into downtown to party, and probably usually Friday and Saturday nights and that kind of thing. So that's one edge they have. The other edge is they do have some entertainment areas there.
Oh, yeah,
they have a couple of good theaters there. They got the Meridian Place and the other one, the first
Meridian Center and First Ontario Performing Arts Center. Yeah.
So there are things there that will draw people in,
as well as the Ice Dogs games.
Yeah, so that's also an advantage.
Yeah,
so they have things that will keep them floating even on low and at low times. But how do you reinvent a downtown, and
Yeah.
how do you then appeal to? Because before, like I remember going there to watch Cirque du Soleil. So what you want to do ahead of time is walk around, have a meal, and then go
Yeah.
to the performance, or go for a meal after the performance.
Yeah. Either
kind of
way.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, I would say, generally speaking, I think St. Catharines is doing better than downtown Niagara Falls is doing.
Probably, yeah, because there's more versatility there.
Yeah.
Like I said before, they have.
You were talking about going out for a beer downtown Niagara Falls, and it wasn't so good. There's fewer places in the falls than there used to be.
Well, they have some survivors there. Of course, they have the Grand Central Station, and of course, they've got taps. There are survivors in the area.
Oh, yeah.
They do now have all those students there, which if they were able to market it properly, they may be able to entice a lot of them into the cafes or the restaurants, or come there later at night to have a party or two. When they have, so there is that resource. I don't know if it's fully exploited yet.
No, I don't think it is.
Yeah, I remember there are a lot of foreign students there too, so you're going to have to find things that are appealing to them to get them out. They're wouldn't entertain themselves in the same way that people are born here would. They might stay inside their own communities or whatever. So you have that. So you have a bunch of students that you could probably use as a resource.
Yeah.
When that Park Street complex is built on polluted land, there's going to be a huge amount of people there in that building that will want to be able to walk someplace to do some shopping, walk someplace to have a meal, that kind of thing. So that might stimulate the downtown. But St. Catharines definitely does. But I don't know, because they got more things going on there. That's my feeling.
Yeah. Okay. No, and we've kind of come to the end of our show today.
Yes.
Nancy says, good morning. Freezing cold in Cleveland. Yeah, like it was here yesterday. Yeah, it doesn't look too bad here this morning.
Nancy's more likely to get lake effect snow, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Where she is.
More.
Yeah.
University. Yeah. All right.
We could probably expect more snow this year because the Great Lakes have warmed up a little bit more than they normally would have. I think. I think that's what I read.
We've already gotten more snow, Dave. We've had more days with snow on them already this year. And true, not any of the snow that we've had would stop you from going to work, but we've had more snow already this winter.
Yeah, we could maybe get a white Christmas this year, which is a rare event the last 20 years to have white Christmas. But as far as the snow goes, when you're talking about snow, because the Great Lakes were warmer than they normally would be, that means there's more available moisture in the air. So we may get more snow.
Yep. All right. Okay. Time for us to go anyway.
Okie doke. And don't forget Gaza, everyone, and Ukraine. These are places that are supposed to be having peace deals going on, and I think we should keep a very close eye on that, because all I see is no peace, but lots of victims.
Yeah.
One-sided deals, et cetera, et cetera. I have no faith at all in the IDF, the Israelis. I don't have any faith at all in the Americans doing something. They have to be pushed to do the right thing, and I don't know if that's going to happen. But
yeah,
in any case, let's just pray for peace and hope that's all over soon.
All right.
Without further ado, I bid you adieu.